this is kind of the way I think about it in my head, and if I was going to a clinic as a Little League coach, trying to understand how they do things up there, this is kind of what I'd want to know. So I kind of broke it out that way. But I want to be respectful of your time. I want to make sure that I'm addressing what you guys want to talk about. Okay, so we'll get into that. I think this is very important. Where's it right? There are coaches that do this professionally that have forgotten about more football than I've ever known, and they do it differently. Okay, you can do it different ways. There is no right or wrong way. This is just our way. This is how we do it. Okay, and so I think where that comes in value is you can do different things, how you do it, how you want to plug in the different things that fit your personnel or your personality. What do you like? What do you think works? What do you think is good? Use it. Okay, but I think there are some things that carry over. And that's, again, this is why you guys are so important, is starting to get those reps right now. Repetition is the mother of all learning, right? This morning, I mean, we had a couple sophomore kids, can't get in a three-point stance. Like, it's tough, right? Like, that's something that's the hardest thing I've found, and these guys can probably corroborate it or give other examples. The hardest thing I found in high school level is you got some kids you can teach calculus. And you got some kids you're teaching 1 + 1 = 2. And how do you keep these kids that are learning calculus engaged when you got these kids that don't know how to get in a stance, and vice versa? You're talking about things that these kids don't understand, and these kids are bored off their ass. So that's the hardest thing. I'm sure it's even worse at the Little League level. But I think those are the things, if we can do that, teach them how to get in a stance. Teach them what a successful play means. What does it mean? Teach them what fundamentals are. I had no line coach. Oh, we're going to be fundamentally sound. Funny enough, a kid from Kahuku, coach, what's fundamental? What does that even mean? And literally in the middle of the meeting, my coach is like, if I can't explain it to you, if I can't tell you what I mean by fundamental, how do I expect these guys to know, right? Like, fundamentals, just do the fundamentals. Whatever fundamentals, right? So that's kind of what I want to get into. Obviously, you want to be cognizant of your time, make sure we're doing it. The next thing, believe in what you're teaching and coaching. Okay? There's opposition in all things. There's going to be good in what you're doing, there's going to be bad in what you're doing. This is the way we do it. You've just got to understand why you're doing it that way and have answers when it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. Okay? And we can get into that in the run game a little bit. We are running off the ball. We are sprinting off the ball. We're getting our heels and our ankles out of the backfield, and we are taking the fight to the defense. A lot of coaches that make a lot of money coaching offensive line do not believe in that. When they start twisting and they start stunting and doing different things, you're going to miss them. You're going to miss them. You can't get there if you're running off the ball. And they teach this duck mentality crap. We're the worst athletes on the field. And you're going to make us do that shit too? Like, no, we've got to use what athletic ability we have and run off the ball. Run off the ball. So in the run game, we are attack mode all day long. That's another thing where I hope you guys can kind of help build the culture and the program. Don't just turn your offensive line into the last stop before the bus stop. It can't just be like, you can't play anything else, let's put him on the line. And I get it, you're going to have to do that a little bit with what you got on your rosters and your numbers you're carrying. But we have to change the mindset here in this program. Because we have kids right now going to coach preemptively saying, I will transfer if you move me to offensive line. I'm not that old, and that blows my freaking mind. I can't imagine the set of balls on a parent that would walk in and tell the head coach that. But here, it's what they think, right? They don't understand the value of what the offensive line can be, and frankly should be, okay? We'll get into that a little bit too. But just believe in what you're coaching and have answers for when what you're coaching maybe doesn't fit with what the defense does. And honestly, with us running off the ball, keep your feet underneath you, keep your eyes up. That's my answer 9 times out of 10. Shorten your steps. You'll get there eventually. You'll be okay, right? But there are situations where it's like, man, if we were kind of doing this program, we probably could have picked up that stuff a little better. I'm going to deal with it. I'll deal with the bad because of what I get in the good, if that makes sense, okay? So, where do you guys want to spend your time? You guys tell me, what is valuable for you here?
None of us have ever run a zone run offense.
Okay.
And we heard last night we should be.
Okay. We will get into zone. What else?
Well, we all need technique because we don't have size.
Okay.
We need footwork, we need technique because none of us have size. So whatever you can teach us to make us
Okay.
the most beneficial.
We'll get there.
And then drills, good offensive drills.
Okay.
How to turn little boobies into chess.
How to turn.
I'm just teasing you.
So,
Just identify it.
no, man, I mean, that's what we're doing every morning. We're out at 5:30 in the morning with these kids, and every time, what do I say after we warm up? I gotta find 2 more bodies. Like, we're short 2 bodies. I gotta find 2 bodies to plug in somewhere and hope they turn into players, because we don't have them right now. And this is at the varsity level.
Dustin, can we just kind of brainstorm throughout this meeting on ideas on how we can promote the offensive
Yep,
line
absolutely.
through the high school? You know, I'm thinking, for example, we bring them out on the football field on Friday nights. Forget about the quarterbacks and the receivers, the guys that get all the glory, but bring out the linemen and make their parents proud of them so they want to play line.
Yeah. And I really want to make it as simple, where we're just doing 3 or 4 ideas that we just practice when we go in individual, we do the same
Speaking my language.
3, 4 on O-line and D-line, if we can figure out what you guys want to see on that.
Okay, so I think we're pretty close. We're pretty close in alignment to kind of what I had here. So we'll get going on this. This is the first thing in here, because honestly, and you guys know this, you're sacrificing time away from your families, your job, your church responsibilities, whatever it is to be here. It's all about the kids. I don't care what kind of coach you have. If you don't have the horses, you're in trouble. Now, coaching matters, but it's all about the kids. And they have to believe in exactly what you're just saying. They have to believe and they have to be bought in. And these 5 were dogs. They battled. And at the beginning of the year, I was like, man, I'm not sure. But as we started getting to the scrimmages during summer camp, I'm like, we're going to be just fine. We're going to be just fine. And these 5 ended up being our offensive MVP. Okay? Daniel awarded them and recognized them, as you said, and made it a big deal. The previous year, our right guard, now granted, we sucked 2 years ago, we were 2-9, but our right guard was our offensive MVP. This past year, the entire offensive line was the MVP of the team. Okay, so it's all about the kids. Make sure that they know that. Make sure that they take pride in that and they're proud of that. Again, this is not the only way. You can jump on YouTube and watch a ton of coaches that have forgotten more football than I know, and they'll probably say something completely different than I will, and they're right, because they believe in it and they have the answers for it. This is what I believe, and I'll give you why, and I have the answers for that. Most of the time, I have most of the answers for this. A lot of times I'm like, oh shit, I don't know. just hit them harder, I don't know. So, what does it mean? I love this quote, because to me, this is really what it's all about. Mike Tice wasn't a super successful head coach, but he was a heck of an offensive line coach for a long time. As you guys think about it, what is the job of the offensive line? Just throw something out there.
Yeah, just blocking for the backs.
Block for the backs.
All the dirty work.
Protect the quarterback, right? So everybody says, block and protect. Nah. Our job is to establish the demeanor and the tempo of the team. If you think about it, offensive line is the only position on the field that you have 5 guys on for every play. That's 45% of your offense for every play. You have 1 quarterback, 1 or 2 running backs, 1 or 2 tight ends, 3 or 4 receivers. You have 5 O-linemen on every freaking play. And when you get out of, have to play this guy 10 plays and this guy has to get 7 plays, when you get out of that, it's the same 5 horses. We're rotating backs in and out, we're rotating receivers in and out, we're rotating tight ends. You got 5 dudes. And they have to understand that that's their job. They have to be the baddest SOBs on your team. And that's what I'm saying. We've got to get out of this thing of, well, it's the last stop before the bus stop. Just take all the kids that can't play and move to O-line. We've got to, I know you got to do what you got to do to win and make it a good experience for the kids, but we have to get the dogs to get that feeling of wanting to just pound on people. The offensive line is the only position on football where literally every play you have contact. You can't hide. Literally every play you're banging, right? You don't just run out in space and cover somebody or break, run, turn out or whatever. You're banging every play. And if the kids like that, if they like physically assaulting people legally, then it can be fun, right? And here's the thing we were talking about, especially here, is like, I don't understand. I go to Layton, I go to Davis, freaking Clearfield even, and I look at some of the kids they have, and I'm like, it's like 2 blocks away from us. How do they have so many big kids and we have all these little midgets? I don't think you need size. I don't. It obviously helps. It's not going to hurt you. What you gotta have is you gotta have somebody willing to put their nose on the defender. Not hands, put their nose on the defender. And strength helps. But they don't have to be big kids. They don't have to be big fat kids like me. If they're strong and they ain't afraid of contact, they can play offensive line. Okay, so that's something I think you guys can hopefully help us with, is kind of start maybe finding that kid. Hey, this is our second fullback. Put him as a guard. Have him just beat people up. Put him at a center. Can never have enough kids snapping the ball. We need at least 3 at the varsity level. Every game. Every Friday night I need at least 3 centers. Teach him how to snap it. Get that kid, like this is our middle linebacker, he wants to play D-line, or he wants to play tight end, but we don't really use a tight end, whatever it is, put him in tackle. Make it special, make it big, okay? The other thing, this is kind of personal to me. It's just a personal pet peeve of mine. It doesn't matter what level you go to, right? If you're at Little League, if you're at high school, if you're at college, if you're in the NFL, play doesn't go anywhere. What's the first thing you hear from mom that doesn't know what she's talking about? Block, line! Like, okay, we have 5 guys to block and they brought 7. What the hell do you want us to do? Right? Don't let that happen. Don't ever tell your line, come on guys, block. Well, no shit, thanks coach. Like, what does that even mean, right? Like, don't let that happen. Don't blame those guys, because they're doing the shit that nobody else wants to do. Right? Now, it's okay to get on their butt, and these guys will tell you, I scare the hell out of our kids because I'm intense and I'm passionate, and I get on them. But it's never like, and the only thing I get on them about is effort and attitude. If they're giving me everything they've got and they're sticking their nose on people, hey, it is what it is, we'll deal with the breaks. If they don't do something that we coach them up to do, that's when I get upset. Okay? So think about that, think about how we can implement that and make it a big deal, make it special, make it important. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep running into this same thing. We're gonna have kids coming in preemptively saying, I'm gonna transfer from you, you know. It's just, again, blows my freaking mind. Okay, so I think this is something that is important as well. Set the expectation with your guys. What does it mean to play this position? Right? And to me, it's all about the team. Again, we're doing the stuff nobody wants to do. We don't get our name in the newspaper, we don't score touchdowns, nobody watches us except for coaches and our moms. Right? We don't get the pretty girlfriends, we don't get any of that stuff. So it's always about the team. So what is team? To me, it's toughness. The team expects you to be mentally tougher and stronger than the opposing team. Effort. This is huge for offensive line, especially if it comes from a culture of, oh, it's the last stop before the bus stop, just get the faculty to do anything else and put them up there. They one hit and then they watch the play, right? Effort is the cost of admission. That's table stakes. And the one thing all these guys will tell you is I am relentless about that. Our kids get so tired of me yelling finish and run to the ball and break on the ball and get down there, protect the ball carrier. I'm like a parrot. You could just put it on record and I wouldn't even have to coach. Just say that over and over and over and over again. Effort is critical. There's an O-line coach in the NFL that says, he's the O-line coach for the Atlanta Falcons, a guy named Dwayne Ledford. And he says, pass protection especially, all it breaks down is who wants it more. Do you want to protect the quarterback more than the guy wants to get to you? There's a lot of truth to that. There is. And we'll get into some technique and we'll kind of talk about how you get to that spot. But ultimately, you got to finish the drill. You got to finish the rep. You got to win your individual battles. Okay, attitude. Again, we take pride in doing the things that others don't want to do. I want those 5 kids that I showed you at the first. I mean, you know, we had a good crew, but I mean, we don't have any killers, right? They're not like, hey, this kid's going to Notre Dame. We don't have anything like that. But they had to believe, and I pumped them so full of air that on Friday night, they took that field. Those 5 kids thought they were the baddest sons of bitches in the world. They thought they were the toughest, nastiest kids in the world, and nobody could mess with them. And I had to feed them that belief. I had to let them think that we're going to take anybody. Bring it. You want to mess with us? Let's go. And what's funny, Daniel actually mentioned it too, is you get higher and higher in football, from Little League to high school to college to the NFL. It kind of changes. By the time you hit the NFL, the O-line's kind of the badasses. They're the bouncers. They're the alphas. You don't mess with that group. They're always in their own little corner. Nobody knows what they're doing. They do their own thing. Nobody even understands it, but you don't mess with that group. You mess with that group and you go home in a cast, right? That kind of mentality is what I want to get here. I want these kids to believe that they are the baddest dudes. Maybe not the biggest, maybe not the fastest, maybe not the best athletes, but they're the toughest SOBs, and that's why they're playing this position. Mentally strong, never BCD. I got that from Urban Meyer. Didn't turn out so well in the NFL, but never BCD. Don't blame, complain, or defend. Doesn't matter, get better. Don't blame, complain, or defend. You gotta be mentally tough to play the offensive line. Be coachable. This, and we'll argue with Gage, I think you can get a great athlete and say, hey, go run down there, we'll throw you the ball, jump up and catch it. Nobody knows how to block. I think there's more skill involved in offensive line than any position. I think talent and athletic ability obviously is outside of there, but skill, there's nobody that requires more skill than offensive line. Think about a receiver running a route. Hey, go 10 to 12, curl up here and find the soft spot. Shit, 10 to 12, that's 6 feet difference. I'm talking about 6 to 8 inches is different. Right? Like, that doesn't work in my world. There's no such thing as go 12 to 10 and curl it. Like, no. It's 6-inch step here, it's an 8-inch step here, it's this, it's that. Like, I don't understand that. That's why I don't care about the throw meter, because it's all fluff to me. Like, this is how you do it down here, right? So be coachable, don't go native, and the last one is communicate. And this is something that's difficult for, I'm sure it's gonna be really hard for you guys. It's been hard for me even at the high school level. And we'll pull up some film here and kind of get through it, but I want them to talk on every single play. If they're not communicating, we're in trouble. I firmly believe it doesn't matter how we draw it up. As long as all 5 guys are on the same page, we can block anything. There's a million different ways to do it. Just as long as we do it through one set of eyes, one heartbeat, we're fine. So I love it on tape when I see my kids pointing guys out and talking to each other. Like, I love that. That's critical. Because you have to understand who you're responsible for and what your job is, especially when we get to the zone game. Right? You got to understand what to have what to. Okay? So, those are the expectations. What is the process to get there? Okay? Those 4 things, every position of football, I believe, it comes down to those 4 things. Football is a game that's played from the ground up at every single position. So you can use those 4 characteristics or those 4 priorities at any position that should work. Your stance and alignment. Do you have a good fundamental stance? Can you move? Again, it doesn't matter if you're playing linebacker or defensive line. Get off. Offensive line, we're usually the big guys, usually the slow guys. We're not going to run a 40 and beat people in a race. I understand that. But in a phone booth, you've got to be able to move. If you just lose off the ball and can't get out of a stance, I can't use you. I don't care how big you are. You can't play. Because there's a race on every play of about 3 to 5 yards that you have to win at the offensive line. If you can't win that, you can't play. So get off is critical, both in the run game and the pass game. Assignment, you have to know what you're doing. Again, it's the only position that you have 45% of your offense on the field for every play. If they don't know what they're doing, that's a bust. You're in trouble. Your quarterback gets hurt, your running back gets hurt. Not good for anybody. They have to know. So we'll get into why, kind of you were saying earlier, the same 3 or 4 plays or whatever it is, speaking my language, baby. Like, repetition is the mother of all learning. We run 5 run plays at the high school level. That's it. And frankly, it's 2 run plays with different rules. That's it. Okay, so we'll kind of get into that. And then the last one is finish. It's the most important phase of every play. You have to finish the play, especially at the Little League level. Those titty bumps, one-hit wonders, bump, and then they watch, oh, what's going on? Can't have it. Have to teach them how to finish. So when you're doing your drills, as we get into it, we start talking about drills and different things, have a beginning of the drill and have an ending of the drill on everything that you're doing and require them to finish. Even if it's just that 5-yard run. Even if it's just at the end of a drive block, you're going to give a little push as I blow the whistle. Whatever it is, require them to finish and start ingraining that so that they understand, hey, this is how you finish a play. Again, I can't say how many times I say, protect the ball carrier. Get downfield and protect the ball carrier. I'm not asking them to sprint down there and score a touchdown. Hopes makes the running back score a touchdown every time. I'm like, give me 15 yards hard, and then bring it back. But if they don't, I'm in their ass. I'm ripping their nuts. Because the finish is the most important part of the play. Okay, so technique, okay, fundamentals. There's 2 things to offensive line that you have to have. All we're trying to do as an offensive lineman is establish leverage. 2 different types of leverage, okay? So this one is probably the most, in my opinion, misunderstood, is the positional leverage. And what that is it's basically just getting your body between the guy that you're responsible for, the defender that you're responsible for, and the ball. Whether that's the quarterback or whether that's the running back. Positional leverage is everything. You block people with your feet, not with your arms. Right? It's the hardest thing to break this habit of little league kids that like shuffle sideways with their arms extended. And I tried to block him. Don't block him with your arms. All your arms for is to guide you in. to your landmark or to your aiming spot. You block people with your feet and your body. You have to run. You have to move your feet, okay? And the correct footwork reduces the defense's ability to slant and twist and blitz. That's why I don't believe in this crap. I think if you take the right footwork, you're going to fall into it 9 times out of 10. When we get on some film, I'll show you how it works out. It doesn't work out perfect every time. And that's the other thing. It's never pretty. I tell the kids, hey, it wasn't pretty, but it worked, right? Something's going to go wrong. Something's going to bust. But as long as we kind of get where we're supposed to get, it usually works out. So, you block people with your feet. Drill that into the young kids. It's not your arms. I told the kids this morning, if I had my druthers, I'd tie their hands behind their back right now, without pads on. Don't care what you're doing with your hands. Move your feet. Move your feet. Move your feet. In the run game, you've got to get your eyes on your aiming point. Okay, so in every run, they have an aiming point. They should have an aiming point. When I tell my kids, hey, this is what you do on this play, they parrot that back to me. I can't stand it when I say, what do you do here? Block this guy. What the hell does that mean? Block this guy. Tell me exactly what you do. How do you get there? What's your aiming point? What's your footwork? How do you even get there? They've got to understand that, or else they don't know, right? If you can't measure something, you can't change it. So if you don't know what they're aiming for, what they should be going for, how are you going to get better at it? So they've got to understand what their aiming point is and how to get there. Spot is in the pass protection. And we'll get into what the spot is and how to kind of look through that. But how do you get your body between the ball carrier and the ball? So that's positional leverage. Questions? Thoughts? Okay? Physical leverage is kind of what everybody thinks, right? This is low pads win, 100% accurate. That will never change. That's physics. It's not going to change. What I look for is their hips. I think we have a problem, and part of it's me, because what I coach is running off the ball. Come off hard, come off aggressively, run off the ball. We sometimes fall out of blocks. We'll sometimes miss and fall forward, or somebody will throw us. I'll deal with it. I'll deal with that 1 or 2 times a game, because I'll take the other 22 times where we drive about 5 yards off the ball. It's worth it to me. Does that make sense? So what I'm looking for is not just low pads, flat back, yes. It all starts with the hips, okay? So I tell the kids, if your belt buckle is lower than the guy you're going against, you're probably going to win. Not this, because my belt buckle doesn't move. How do I get my belt buckle lower? I have to bend, okay? If you have 345s, 45-degree angle on your ankles, 45-degree angle on your knees, 45-degree angle on your hips, like that picture that was against Davis last year, this kid drove this 21 or whatever defensive end off the ball about 20 yards down the field with our butt backed up, our ass hanging over a cliff. They know we're running the ball. He drove that kid 20 yards downfield. It's a great fit. His eyes are on his landmark. His hands are inside. He has a 45-degree bend in his ankles, his knees, and his hips. You're going to win. It's that simple. Okay? So, eyes up. Again, we have a little bit of a problem because, again, that's what I coach. Run off the ball. We get a little bit of this. They have a tendency to fall forward. Get your eyes up. Your body will go where your head needs. If you're looking down, you're going to go down. If you're looking up, you're going to be okay. Hands inside. This is something that I'm committed to fixing for us. We have a real problem with this. We're all trying to, don't let him get away from me. Get your hands inside. You guys understand that principle? Get how that works? I mean, we can get up and demo it and all that if you want to, but it's pretty simple principle. Yeah. I don't like a big cock.
Yeah,
just straight up. And it's almost an uppercut. I mean, it's just boom and run. But again, all your hands are doing in the run game is leading your head to the spot, and then you extend the run. But you gotta put your face on people. You have to put your face on people. And I know we're all trying to take the head out of the game. I get it. I really, really, really do. But you can't block people otherwise. You can't block people like this. You have to put your face on them. So get your face on that aiming point. Feet underneath is just don't get overextended, right? Keep your feet underneath you and run. Okay, so positional leverage, physical leverage. To me, that's fundamentals. We drill those things constantly. I'll get into this too. Don't let me forget this. Okay, if your drills aren't showing up on Saturday for you guys, when you watch tape, and your drills aren't showing up, you're doing the wrong drills. So I understand there's a time for, running through the ropes or over the bags. There is a time and a place for that. I agree. I believe that. I don't have enough hours in the day to teach my kids what I need to teach them to do that shit as well. That doesn't show up on Friday night. Okay? We don't do barrel rolls. We don't do monkey rolls. We don't do that stuff. We don't even use the sled. Very rarely use the sled because the defender doesn't just stand there and say, hey, block me. Right? So we don't do that. If your drills don't show up on tape, you're using our own drills. So we have a drill library that I go back to constantly and go through. So, those are the fundamentals, right? That was the fundamentals. It's all about leverage. Positional leverage, physical leverage. If you get positional leverage and physical leverage, you won the rep. If you didn't, you probably lost the rep, okay? So how do we get there? What's our process to win? How do we win as an offensive line? Number one starts with your stance alignment, okay? I didn't realize how difficult this was, frankly, until this morning of all times, right? Teaching kids how to get in the stance ain't easy. A lot of these kids have been sitting around playing video games or something because they cannot bend at all. I'm 44 years old with a bad back and I can bend better than they can. They can't bend. Their heels come up out of the ground, like they don't know what they're doing. Spend time on this. Teach them this. Help them understand the value of a stance, okay? So other than our center should be parallel, feet should be parallel, toes parallel. Everybody else is a little bit of a staggered stance. If you can teach the kids this as well, teach them how to get in a left-handed stance. It is important, okay? And I know, again, I'm sitting here talking about I don't have enough time to do this, that. You guys probably don't have enough time to teach them how to get in a left-handed stance. But if you can, it will help them down the road, okay? If they're on the left side, they should be in a left-handed stance. And when we get into pass protection, I'll explain why. It does matter, okay? So starting from the ground up, staggered stance, toe to instep. Some of these kids get out here and they think they're running a track race or something, right? It ain't that. Toe to instep, that's it. To me, that's a big stagger. This is too big. Maybe my tackles, if they know it's a pass, I'll let them get into something like this, but not very often. Okay? Stagger your feet just slightly. Toe to instep. Very simple. Boom to boom. Okay? You guys know what the strongest shape in nature is? Triangle. Okay, the pyramids have been around for how many millions of years or thousands of years, right? Pyramid is the most strongest, most natural form. So when you're getting in your stance, think the same thing. Your feet should be wider than your knees. Your knees should be wider than your hips. Don't do this. We had kids this morning, like this, right? Can't get too wide because then you can't move. But they should be wider than your knees. Your knees should be wider than your hips. Okay? Then it's just bent down. Get those Z's in your hips, your knees, and your ankles. Like you're taking a dump. Same way you guys teach it. Take your off hand, the one that you're going to put down. If you're in a left-handed stance, it's your left hand. If you're in a right-handed stance, it's your right hand. You get down like you're taking a dump, and you pretend like your eyeball fell right out of your skull and is sitting on the ground. You're going to reach down and pick it up. So basically your hand goes under your eye. Doesn't go out here, doesn't go clear up under here, goes under your eye. Okay, does that make sense? Weight distribution, 33 1/3%. 33 1/3 on your left foot, 33 1/3 on your right foot, 33 1/3 on your hand. Okay, now if you guys run the ball a lot, Little League, I'm assuming you do, it's okay to stretch it out a little bit more, get a little more weight for it. Teach them to run off the ball, okay? Again, if you can teach them how to get in a left-handed stance, it does matter, we can get into that. And lastly, eyes up. Don't stare at the grass. Can't stand it when an old linebacker's blitzing you right here. And get your eyes up. You know you got that guy. He's right there. Just go get him, right? Get your eyes up and communicate and talk about it.
Do you have any good fixes for that? Because we see it all the time, and
Just in practice, just drill it, rep it.
grab them
Yep.
and lift
Duct
them.
tape.
And just ask them, right? So like, give them a play in the huddle.
Duct tape.
Duct tape.
Tape their heads down.
Wooden rod,
What's that?
wooden rod.
But no, just doing that, right? And then even in practice, if you get up there, you give them the play in the huddle, they get up, they get set, and you can tell they're looking at the ground. Hey, what's that linebacker doing? You know, hey Johnny, what are you looking at? Looking at the grass, coach. Okay, just constantly point it out. And I scare the hell out of these kids because I'm passionate and I get after it. I think as a coach, my opinion, you should be correcting or congratulating on every freaking rep. Don't be sitting back bullshitting with your buddy. Don't just be sitting there watching and going, oh, we're going to get hammered this weekend. Every rep. If you want the kids to be bought in and you want the kids to have energy on every rep, you should have energy on every rep.
See, one thing that I used to do, I lived in a little league world, is I would have my blitzing linebacker just hit the lineman.
Yeah.
He learned to get his head up real quick. Because you don't want him hitting, running chaos in your backfield anyway, so just have him hit the lineman, he'll get his head up.
Yeah. But that's something that we as coaches need to do a better job of. If you're juiceless as a coach, you're useless. You should bring energy, you should bring passion, you should make it fun for these kids. And again, offensive line isn't really fun. Nobody goes in the backyards and pretends to be Zach Tom or, Joe Thomas. Nobody does that. And when they do realize
we
that,
do make it fun.
Huh?
We need to find something to make it fun.
so that's
We need
what
to
comes
start
down.
here.
That's what comes down to make it matter. Make it important. Make the kids realize that it's not just the last stop before the bus stop. These are the bouncers. These are our toughest kids, and that's why they play this position. They're probably our second best running back, but he's our toughest kid, and that's why he's playing. And praise the crap out of him. Don't let that block somebody. Don't let that happen. I get it. Moms are gonna say it. I get it. But we as coaches should never say that. I jump everybody. I'll jump the running backs. I'll jump the receivers. If they don't track the safety, it's like, look. If you think that this is fun, get your ass down here and do it. If you think this is easy, get down here and do it. We have great runners. Kenyon said something last year, and I ripped his ass in front of everybody. Like, it's not okay. This is different. If you want to get up here and do it, get up here and do it. If you think it's easy, get up here and do it. So, I don't know. It's just a...
When you're communicating, you're teaching the kids to communicate, you want them to communicate and have their eyes up looking. Are they saying exactly, we got him, we both are on him, or you want them to say exactly?
So we have...
codes on there.
We have codes.
Yeah.
So like on the backside of zone, our combination between our center and our guard is an A block. Our guard and our tackle's a B block. Our tight end and tackle's is ABC. Pretty hard, right? You can call it apples, bananas, cherries. I don't care. Call it whatever you want to call it. On the front side, it's cage, gut, and tack. So you can call it whatever you want to call it. But honestly, when I talk to the kids on after Friday, they're like, no, coach, we don't say that. We just say, hey, me and you right here, right? Because they know it's a combo. And they'll just say, hey, me and you, let's go. Me and you, hey, he's walking up. Hey, he's out here. Me and you, we got him. Let's go. And they just, you'll see it on tape. Okay, last thing. 3-point stance. Tackles, I will allow to come out of the 2-point stance. I don't know how often you guys throw the ball. Our tackles, I let them come out of a 2-point stance occasionally. The only rule there is, it's a DPMO rule. So, DPMO, don't piss me off. So, if it's 3rd and 15 and they're in a 3-point stance, I get pissed off. If it's 1st and goal and they're in a 2-point stance, I get pissed off. So I let them kind of determine when they go with it, and our kids were really good at some really smart tackles last year. As long as it's not DPMO, we're okay. I'll let them kind of do what they want. If they start pissing me off, then I tell them what to do. Okay, so stance and alignment. What the hell? Okay, so this is another thing that's important. Notice this picture over here. We are off the ball. And when we start talking about zone, you'll understand why. They have to be off the ball. So get your guards and your tackles off the ball. All that has to happen is their helmet has to break the center's midline or his belt. As long as they're that far forward, they can be as far back as they want. Okay, so this is an actual picture from Skyridge last year, and you notice it's a perfectly freaking straight line. That doesn't happen by accident, guys. That's me being a dick the first week and a half of 2 days and summer camp and all that. It's important. Little things matter. Okay.
And how is it the feet you're looking at?
Yeah, so the guards are in a 3-point stance always.
Yeah.
So we started last year and the guards put their hands on the center's toe and they were still too far forward. So then I said, put it on his shoelace, like where he ties his bow, and they were still too far forward. So I said, put your hand right down the middle part of his ankle. And you can see here, we're actually further off the ball than that. Okay, so they come off the ball that far, the guards do. They set the depth.
Nobody's calling that?
No, because as long as the helmet passes through the center's belt, it's okay. Okay? And then the tackle, this is the weirdest thing, I don't know how this works. The tackle takes his inside foot and aligns it directly on the guard's inside foot. Not his outside foot, his inside foot. And somehow, even if you have a 6'7" tackle and a 6'1" guard, it always works out. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I'm telling you it works out. It's amazing. Okay? So, you'll notice, I mean, that's almost a perfectly straight line. They're in a good alignment, they're in the right spots. Okay? Get them off the ball, because we're running off the ball. We want to get our second step in the ground and run. So we have to be off the ball a little bit. Splits. I don't know what you guys can and can't do. I came from old school, when I was in high school, we were in option. We were 2 foot to 3 foot splits. Can't do that in today's football. Throw the ball too much, it's too much. So we cut it down. I think they got really tight last year. We were a foot if we were lucky. I want to try and get back to 18. It just creates natural seams if possible. But you got to be cognizant. Again, just believe in what you're coaching and have an answer for it. If you get too big a split, your combos are going to get messy. Okay, especially like your gap scheme combos. You're going to get guys fighting against each other instead of butt to butt. In your zone stuff, man, that's the second player, the drive player, better be moving. Because that's a long time for the post player to handle this guy by himself if your drive player can't get there. So we've cut it down. I'm trying to split it back out to 18. Don't know if we'll stay there. A lot of it, again, I don't know what you can coach at the Little League level, but a lot of it, I tell my kids, are backside, front side responsibilities. Front side, you know you're comboing with this guy, cut it down. Backside, you know you're not comboing with this guy, get as big a split as you can. Does that make sense? So, again, no flying V's, straight line. As long as the helmet's through the center's hip or his belt buckle, we should be fine. I also tell the kids this, and they always laugh. The ref usually always wins. Hey son, you're too far back, you gotta scoot up. I tell them to say, okay, thank you, Mr. Referee, shuffle their feet and get in the exact same spot. If they throw the flag after that, I'll take the first one. Stay off the ball. Gotta stay off the ball. Okay, so we've gone through fundamentals, we've gone through stance and alignment, get off. To me, this is probably the second most important after finish. You have to get off the ball. You can't ooze off the ball. You can't be a big fat sloppy guy and just kind of fall forward. You can't. I don't know how to coach that. I don't think it works. Okay, I come from the old school. When I really started getting into the offensive line, and frankly football was, I played in high school and I got all that. And even in college, I'm like, okay, this is great. But when I really kind of started like, this is cool, it was like the early 2000s, late 90s with Mike Shanahan and the Broncos. And they could plug a different running back in every freaking year and they'd go for 1,200 yards, clockwork. They didn't have a single O-lineman on that squad over 300 pounds. And again, that's 20 years ago, but they weren't very dang big. They weren't big, but they did the right things. They had good technique, they had good skill, they could run, they had speed to their aiming point, and they could make plays happen. Okay? So I'm a believer in it. In the run game, we are running off the ball. And I say that repeatedly because I want the kids to think that. It's a 40-yard dash through your aiming point in that direction. That's all it is. Again, I don't do this duck walk crap. Freaking run. Go. As fast as you can, as hard as you can. Run through it. And when we watch film, I'll kind of show you what I'm looking at. Dang, I gotta hurry up. We'll get through it. I'm looking at, are we getting our ankles out of the backfield? Are we moving the line of scrimmage? If we're doing that, good chance we're gonna have a good play. If we don't, Doc's gonna have to make a play for us. Okay? And in the passing game, it's just as important, okay? You have to explode out of your stance. You can't just stumble backwards. You can't just pop up and go like this. You have to drive catch. Apply force through the ground, drive your body back, and catch your way in balance. You have to get there. You have to explode out. If you don't, you're already beat. And I'll kind of show you why. Okay? So run game. So in the zone, we'll talk about this in depth. Okay? In the run game, all your first step does is it sets your angle. Okay, we all know about power lines, right? Human body hasn't changed in 2 million years. If I'm out of whack like this, I have no power, I have no strength. If I'm like this, I have no power, I have no strength. If your hips and your shoulders are aligned and your core, which ties your upper half to your lower half, is aligned, you got a shot to have some strength behind you. Okay, so your first step, all it does is set your angle of departure. It sets your launch point. Your first step, all it does is opens your hips and your shoulders and clears space for your second step to get down. Does that make sense? Difference between inside zone and wide zone? Inside zone, we're trying to get vertical knock on. Wide zone, we're trying to stretch the front side of the knee and cut the back side. So my step, it's okay. If I've got a wide landmark or a wide aiming point out here, I can't get there if I try and go forward. I'm not gonna get my hat where it needs to be. I can't define the read for the back, it's a bad play. So it's okay to lose ground as long as I gain width. Does that make sense? What you cannot have happen is this, or even this. If you just pivot over your toe, you're gonna be short. You're not gonna get your line mark. If you step backwards, your shooter's not gonna get there. If you gain width and lose ground, it's okay. Because now my hips and my shoulders are in line. My second step comes down, it doesn't cross my midline, and I'm throwing that uppercut right through a sternum, putting my hat on his far armpit. And then it's a 40-yard dash in that direction. Block them on the angle you find them and run. That's all it is. Just run. Don't try and flip your hips. Don't try and open a hole, because you do this, you put your ass in the hole, number one. Number two, he's going to beat you this way because now you're trying to block him with your arms. Number three, you don't know where the back's going. Backs are usually the best athlete out there. Let them make their money. They're the ones that get their name in the newspaper. So your second step. Your second step, that's where all your power is. So your first step sets your angle, your second step is your power. If you can make contact on your second step. So if I'm going this way, if I'm going to my right, I set my angle and I make contact on my second step, same shoulder, same knee. I will tell you right now, if everything else is good, I'm gonna win that rep. If I make contact and my foot's in the air, I'm in trouble. If I make contact and I'm rooted, he's probably gonna cross my face. If I make contact as my second step's hitting the ground, you're gonna win that rep. So I tell the kids constantly, boom, 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 boom. It can't just be this and then this. It's gotta be boom, 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 boom. Get that second step down, and now it's a 40-yard dash. Block them on the angle, you find them. Just run. Okay? In the passing game, same thing. You have to get to your spot. Okay, I've got a drawing up here to kind of explain what the spot is. It's a race to your spot, and you're going backwards. So you better move. Because they're in that three-point stance, and they got their ears pinned back, and they're coming for blood. And you're going backwards. You better get out of that stance. Have to explode at your expense and get to your spot. Same thing with your feet. They have to work together. You can't take a drive catch or a kick step and just go like this. You're dead. You have to go boom, 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 boom. Keep the same relationship with your feet. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Boom, 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 boom. To me, those are EDDs. Everyday drills. I don't care if we did it first day of camp, we're gonna do it on the last day of playoffs. 1, 2 with your feet. Block people with your feet, right? Get those feet aligned. Get them tight to your body. So get off's crucial. Assignment. Coming back to what you were talking about before. Give us just a couple of plays that we can rep. Firm believer of that. Look, I believe in the GT counter. I believe in inside trap. I believe in veer. I believe in a million different plays. I believe in ISO, blast. I believe in tackle wrap. They're all great plays, but you don't have enough time to teach them all. You've got to trim it down to a point to where the kids know what to do without thinking. Allow them to play fast. So repetition is the mother of all learning. Love this Bruce Lee quote. They've got to have that. They've got to have repped it 10,000 times to where there's no question. They just know what it is. And what we can do as coaches to get to that point, make the rules simple. Make it as simple as you can. So our gap schemes, which is our power and our counter, very simple. You got your gap away. If there's nobody in your gap away, build a combo with the next guy. That's it. To the backer. Every time they hear power or counter, if I'm on the front side, I got a gap away, build a combo. Doesn't matter what the defense is. And we'll go through it when we look at the Weaver tape, because they have different fronts. We'll go through our rules. What's the rule? How would they block it? We bust sometimes. We miss them. It just happens. But more often than not, we don't. Biggest thing, in my opinion, again, scheme is overrated. Coaching matters, 100%. But I think what matters most is the culture that you build as a coach. The ability to let the kids turn loose and get after it and have fun. Okay? One of my favorite things about high school football, and frankly even college football, more than the NFL, I don't even watch the NFL anymore. But I love high school and I love college. Because one week you'll see somebody running east, right? Like wing T, triple option out of the flex bone. You'll see teams running spread. You'll see teams running power I. You'll see teams running the West Coast with 2 split backs. You'll see teams running veer. Shit, they all work. There's no coach in America that draws up a play and says, oh, shit, we're going to have to be lucky for this one to go. If the kids execute, the plays work. Doesn't matter what scheme you're running. So scheme is overrated. Execution is what wins games. Allow the kids to play fast. Allow them to know what their rule is and not have to think and just run off the ball. Or whatever your rule is, right? Go do what you're supposed to do, okay? Funny story, really quickly, I know I'm sidetracking, we're short on time. I had to learn this, okay? I played at the U, had a cup of coffee in the NFL. My dad was a coach, coached at the U, coached at Southern Utah, coached at Weaver. Both my brother, one brother played at Stanford, one brother played at the U. Been around the game a long time, and I love X's and O's. I love being able to like, oh, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. And 2 years ago, I really had to like self-evaluate. I had pictures on my phone. I showed Daniel. Again, I have a job. Like this isn't my full-time job, right? But I was so invested in this. I had pictures on my phone from watching huddle plays where we had kids running buck naked down the middle of the field and we missed the throw. Or we had holes this big and the kid missed the hole. And I'm like, how? And I realized they're kids. They're 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. They're not professionals. You could call the perfect play at the perfect time, and if the kid doesn't execute it, it doesn't matter. What wins games is execution. So make it simple so that they can execute. I don't have those pictures anymore. I had several kids open by like 20 yards. The ball going over their head. I'm like, oh my God. So again, kind of just re-emphasizing that. Leonardo da Vinci, great quote as well. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I think sometimes as coaches we get in a, and I'm as guilty as anybody, we get into a whiteboard war, right? Whoever holds the chalk class is going to win. No. What the kids can do. It doesn't matter what we know. What matters is what the kids can execute. So just keep that in mind. Try and make it as simple as possible so they can go. Okay, finish. This is probably my favorite one. These are all clips from last year of our guys finishing. I love this one. Look at this kid's knee bent backwards. That one right there in the middle, we got two guys finishing with decleaters. That one right there is actually a pass play with two guys finishing in a dominant football position. Okay, and I'm a dick. I am a jerk about this. I'm a ball hawk. The kids don't like it, but they get used to it. And if they don't play the line. Brent Burton, I don't know if any of you know him, great kid, I love him to death. I don't know how many times I told him, Brent, I ain't changing, so you're gonna have to. You have to finish. You have to finish or you can't play. So, gotta hold them accountable, and you have to be consistent. Again, as a coach, that's our job. You should be encouraging or correcting on every single rep, and be consistent. If they're finishing, congratulate them. If they're not, rip their nuts. Have to be consistent. Okay, this is kind of my go-to, protect the ball carrier. Get downfield, protect the ball. We had a couple plays last year. Down west was one of them actually. My center broke on the ball, broke the stack. We fumbled it 23 yards downfield, my center recovered the ball. They get the ball right there. If West gets the ball right there, probably game over because they had it for like 8 minutes in the first quarter. Right? My center got down there and recovered the ball. That's coached. That's getting on his butt for 12 weeks of game time. Right? I don't know how much pre-game time, but yeah. Break on the ball, get there. So again, we talked about this. Every drill should have a finish element to it. Go, okay? Okay, blah, 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 blah. It's all about pride. It's all about just refusing to lose. Don't let your guys sniff the pile. Nobody touches our quarterback. And just make it a mantra for them. Again, they have to believe, even if they're not, they have to believe they're the toughest kids on the field. They have to take pride in that, and it's got to mean something to them. If you can't teach effort, it's got to mean something to them. All you can do is kind of dangle that carrot and make it important to them. So, okay, run game. Damn, I gotta hustle. This was our run game last year. Pretty darn good. Okay, so efficiency is if you get 4 yards on first down, if you get half the distance required on second down, if you convert on third down or fourth down. So if you get the first, you score. If you do that, then it was an efficient run play. If you don't do that, it wasn't efficient. So I like that stat even more than yards per carry, because 2 years ago, again, we ran a draw play and we popped it like 4 times and it averaged like 45 yards a carry. But we didn't run it very often, and even when it did, it'd go like 14 yards, but we needed 17, right? So what the hell, why are we calling it? So I like efficiency. I think that's what matters. Anything over 60% is freaking good. That's like the standard. That's the bar. If you can get to 60, you're doing something right. So our wide zone last year, we ran it 104 times. We averaged 5.6 yards a carry, and it was 63% efficient. Meaning we got at least 4 yards or we converted. It was pretty darn good. Okay. Power, 6.2. Ran it 75 times. Counter, kind of the same thing. Inside zone, we got away from a little bit at the end of the year, but it was pretty efficient. Our toss crack was actually our worst play, but it was still a good play for us. We didn't run a ton of it. And then I threw this one in here because I don't want you to think that I just believe in these 5 plays. I do think auxiliaries are important, and if you can teach it to an elementary school kid or a little league kid and they can get it and rep it and okay with it, throw them in there because it'll screw with people. So we put that tackle trap in against Davis because their D-line just jetted up the field on every play. Fast. So we put a little tackle trap in. Nobody reads the tackle, right? You guys that coach the defensive side, what do you teach your linebackers to read? You're reading the triangle, right? You're reading your guard, your center, and your first back. The guard pulls, you know what to pull, and you go. Nobody reads the tackle. So we pulled the tackle. We ran it 9 times and averaged 14 yards a carry. It was a pretty good play. Pretty good play for us at the end of the year. But it was fun. Okay, so why these runs? Again, you guys do what you need to do to fit your scheme and your personnel and what you like and your personality and all that. I believe in these 5 runs for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're simple, reproducible, and adaptable. Meaning we can run it out of all sorts of different personnel groupings. We can run it out of 4 wide, we can run it out of 3 wide, we can run it out of 12 personnel, we can run it out of 20 personnel, whatever you want to do, you can run it out of these. If you can do that, you got a good play. Okay? Again, our ways, I'll go through that, our rules. And then the other thing I like about it is every gap was accounted for. So our inside zone hit our A gaps. Power hit the B gap. Wide zone hit the C gap, usually cut back. Wide zone is not a cut back play, it's a cut up play. I'll show you. Okay, toss is outside and then counter is A or B gap with the counter action, kind of dip with the defense. Okay, so you're attacking every gap. Again, you can dress it up with different motions, different formations, different personnel groups, whatever you want to do. As long as you're running something for a purpose, you're okay. Okay, does that make sense? And lastly, again, it's the second on this, but our way, our rules. These two plays, for my guys up front, it's the exact same play. Only thing that changes is they know the back's hitting it wider, so they know that their landmark goes from play side pec to play side shoulder. That's it. Same rules. These two plays are the exact same play, except for the puller turns into, we switch responsibilities with the skill player. So instead of wrapping to the back around power, on counter, we're the kick and the back wraps. But for everybody on the front side, backside tackle, center, everybody but the puller, it's the same play. Okay, same play. Toss is the same play as these two plays except for the play side tackle. It's the exact same play, same rules. So we really run two plays. That's it. Because they can rep it. They can get comfortable with it. They've got to know. I'm a firm believer. Like I said, I love dart. I love the tackle wrap. Love it. I love the GT counter. Love it. I love inside trap. Great play. Veer, all of it. I love it. But I don't have enough time because we have to do defensive practice as well. I don't have enough time to coach it. I don't have enough time to get the fundamentals in. I don't have enough indie time. 15 minutes indie is not enough to teach offensive line play. That's all you get. If you get that. Right? It's because you got to go defense. You got to do special teams. You got to do all that. So we run two plays. We just make it look a little bit different. So again, make it simple, make it reproducible, make it adaptable. You should be okay. Okay. Here we go. Zone. Very simple. Very, very simple. Zone, we are all working towards the play. Okay? So if it's a play to the right, we're all going right. Our rules. You have your play side gap to the man over you, to the backer stacked. Doesn't matter what the defense. Throw me a defense. What do you guys see? 4-4. 4-4. Okay, do they play like 1 and a 3, or do they kind of head up on the... It doesn't matter. Okay, we'll do this. We'll do a head of this. And we'll do a backer. We'll do a backer. We'll do a backer. We'll do a backer. Okay, how many O linemen do you have? You got 5. It means you can only block 5 of them. Now, if you want to add an extra gap or add another surface by adding a tight end, now you can do 6. If you want to put a fullback in, now you may be able to block 7. But here's the thing. If you're only going to block them with 5, you got some tough sledding unless you can find a way to get these guys out of the box or force them to look at something else. Okay, so that's why those little flare screens are so big. You get up here, we come out in something like this, and this guy wants to be attached to the box, and they're trying to cover this dude with the safety. Shit, that's a run. We just flip him the ball, block right there, he's out the gate. If that's 4 yards, it's as good as the run. It's a simple read. It's not hard. Come up here, quarterback, and look. If they got numbers, we got numbers or grass or leverage, one step, get it out of your hand. Just like turning a double play. Okay? Now these guys have to block, and this stupid ass has to get to the sideline. For some reason, they like to do this. I'm not very smart, but they like to do this. Like, okay, I'm like the smallest, fastest guy on the field, and there's like 18 guys running over here to take my head off, so I'm going to turn back and run into them. Get to the sideline! Give me 4 yards! Make this guy arm tackle you. I know. I haven't bashed on you. Okay, so let's walk through it. Let's just do a five-man front, a 5-man surface, and kind of walk through zone. Okay, so our rules. Head up to the guy over me. Head up. Build a combo. Backer. Right tackle. We're going right. The way I define in our run game, if you're covered or not, is there somebody from your nose to the man next to you's nose. If there is, you're covered. Okay? So if I had a tight end here, doesn't matter, is this tackle covered? Yes. What if I don't have a tight end here? Is he covered?
Yes.
Yes, because there's somebody from his nose towards the play side. So he's covered, he's got man. Okay, if you're covered, you got man. If you're covered, you got man. This is the, tackles are a little funky. We're gonna say this is the play side gap, but there's somebody on me, I have him. Your aiming point on inside zone is the play side pec. It's gotta be tight. You can't get too wide. I'll show you some film of why you can't get too wide. It's gotta be tight. You want vertical knock off the inside zone. Now for the tackle, the way we run it out of pistol. The back's track is actually here. We open up this way, we should be reading this guy, and we're going, okay? So where is the play side gap technically for the tackle if the back's hitting that? It's technically inside him. Does that make sense? It's the play side gap, but he's clear out here. The play's gonna hit inside him. I don't want him stretching out here trying to push this guy out. Because the only way he gets a minus when I grade the film is if this guy crosses his face. If this guy jets up the field, if he takes him and does this, even if he takes inside footwork and steps with his left foot first and then his right foot comes back and splits this guy in half, steps on his crotch, splits him in half, and they just turn into a stalemate, that's a win. We're okay with that, okay? So that might be a little much for Little League, so you might want to just stay, hey, play side, but go right down the nose of him if you're the tackle and the play side guard. Don't go to the play side pec, go right down his nose, go screws to screws. Does that make sense? Same thing with the guard. Okay, let's go to the guard. Is he covered? Yes. He's got a guy from his head to the tackle's head. He's covered. Same thing. He's going to that play side number. Put your face on it and run, not your hands, not a forearm. Put your face, guide your face in with your hands. Once you make contact, triangle with your forearm, thumbs up, roll your hips and run. Okay? Center, is he covered? This is a linebacker. So he's not covered, right? There's nobody from his nose to the guard's nose. So now he's uncovered. He's now working combo with the man next to him to the backer stacked. Okay?
What's he aiming on the backer?
Same exact, backer, same exact.
Okay,
And on level 1, it's the same.
okay.
Okay? So inside zone, it's a one-step read for your guys. If they're the uncovered guy, they take one step. If this knee comes to them, they're taking it over.
Okay.
If that knee sits, they're going to try and get a piece of it, but they got to climb right now. If that knee goes away from them, it's one step and I'm climbing to the backer. Okay? Wide zone, it's a 3-step read. Okay, so now he's taking a step. If this knee goes away from him, he's going to stay on. Center's going to stay on for 3 steps before he climbs. If the knee comes to him, he's taking it over. The first guy, the drive player, you don't come off that block until you're forced off it. Do not.
God, your handwriting's terrible.
Do not, dude, you have like girl handwriting also.
That's good handwriting.
I know, that's what I'm saying, it's good. Do not chase linebackers.
Yeah.
And when teams get smart, they start realizing that, and so they'll teach their backers just to fill the gap downhill right now. You have to come off your combos a little quicker than you want, but that's fine, especially if you have a good back, because they can pick it and hit it and go out the gate, okay? So this guy, so center, he's uncovered. He's got nobody in his play side gap. He's building a combo front side to the backer over him. The backer determines when we come off of that combo. We don't determine it. If he floats over the top, then the guard will take him. If he comes down here, the center will take him. You do not come off on the backer until you can smell his breath. Do not chase backers. It's better to turn late and only get a piece of him. The back will hit it. Than to chase him. The back has to press the hole to help us. Right? The back's job is to bring the backers to us. Our job is to define the read for the back. Okay? This guy, is he covered? He's covered. Okay? So he's going play side number. He's got to run. Is this guy covered? No, this guy's behind him, right? It's not from his nose to his nose.
Because it's zone right.
Because it's zone right.
If it's
Exactly.
zone left, he's covered.
Yes. Okay? So he's working a combo with the next guy to the backer. Pretty simple, right?
So you're just leaving that backside behind?
Yes, have to, right? Because they got 8 guys, we only got 5. So you're going to leave the least dangerous guys. Okay, now in this case, we don't have anybody for this guy. So you better have an answer. Whether it's this, whether it's another surface, you don't have anybody for this guy. Okay, so the way we ID it, the center, every play, the center needs to ID the mic. Run and pass, doesn't matter. Again, this might be a little much for you guys, but just so you kind of understand the concept. Center's going to ID the mic. Mike is the middle of 3 or the first guy in the box. So if it's a 4-3, okay, we're counting those guys in the box, that's the mic, okay? If this guy's out of it, and we're going left, this would be a bad look, you wouldn't want to run this. If we're going left, this now becomes the mic. And it's not necessarily the guy that is the middle linebacker on the roster, right? Doesn't matter. Center's just going to point a guy, hey, this is our guy, okay? So these two, he's there. This is why this is a bad look. They'd have to push clear to there, right? Not a good look. They'd be going there. Now this is one where you need the back. He's going to set it and cut it, come out the back door, okay? So rules are very simple. I'm going to draw it up one more time, and you guys give me the rules. I'm going to draw it up against like a 30 look, okay? So we'll do it with the tight end. Tight end's responsible for the mic +1. It can be a strong safety, it can be a Sam, whatever it is. His combo works to the mic +1. Does that make sense?
Hey Dusty,
Yep.
sorry to interrupt you. Can you make that just a smidge bigger?
Yeah, please.
Next time.
I feel like you're drawing for yourself, right?
Yeah, I gotta zoom in quite heavily.
Okay, so it's a 30 front, we're going right again. Okay? What does the tight end have? Is he covered? Is there anybody on his nose to the next man next to him? What does he have? Play side number. Run through that play side number. Low, hard, get leverage, and run. Tackle, is he covered? Anybody on his nose to the man next to him? Yep. Run through the play side numbers, hard and fast as you can. Guard, is he covered? Is there anybody on his nose, between his nose? Nope. So what does he have? Build a combo to the backer over him. Okay? One step read. What you'll have, and you'll see it on tape, is they'll get hung up in here and this kid will hit you. Okay? Inside zone hits quick. One step read. Read it and go. Downhill and go. Read that near knee. You're keying this defender's near knee. You take your first step, it comes to you, take it over right now. And his aiming point is the same as his aiming point. It's still that play side number.
So if he comes in, he takes him over.
Takes it over.
You just have to let the back read that when
Yep.
we bounce it out. Then?
Yep. Again, they're the best athlete on your team. They're the ones that have a pretty girlfriend. They get their name in the newspapers. They gotta make you look good. They gotta make you look good. Okay. Center, is he covered?
Yes.
Yes. Play side number. What about backside guard?
No.
Uncovered. Play side number
Then backer.
to the backer. You should get a hell of a push on that nose.
He should-
You should drive that kid out of there. You get 2-on-1, you have to win that. Backside tackle, this is where the rules get a little funky. He's probably backside, he would be going there, depending on what you're doing with the QB, right? Sometimes we'll base this and that guy actually becomes the read. If they do a lot of blitz or they bring that guy in the box. So you're gonna have to kind of figure that out on your own. Does that make sense? Any questions on zone?
Just a reference from last night, inside zone and outside zone. Outside zones we call LA Dodgers, right? We got New York Yankees.
Yep.
So we talked about it last night, that's what we call it.
Yep. So, we talked earlier, every position on the field has something to do, right? In the run game.
There you go. Choosing some space.
I can be taught.
Right next to the word.
I can't bend over. Okay. So even in this, which again, this in our world, I don't know if you guys use tight ends and fullbacks and all that stuff, but in our world, this is about as good a box as we're going to see. Okay. We're going to have 3 receivers. We're going to have other stuff. They're going to have other people. They're going to have to deploy their other people out there. So this is about as we're going to see, and even as good as we're going to see. And even with this front, they still got 6 and we got 5.
Yeah.
Which means somebody has to account for the least dangerous player. We got 5, we can only block 5. You can't ask 5 guys to block 6. Ain't gonna happen. You're not gonna be happy with the results. Okay? So somebody has to hold this guy. If you're running zone read, again, we're running pistol, inside zone, back steps opposite, straight down, he gets the right of way. QB has to get off the midline. Back comes down here. His read is the inside leg of the play side guard. That's all he's looking at. That'll tell him where to go. Okay? QB has to get off the midline. He, in inside zone, is responsible for this guy. If this guy crashes, QB needs to keep it and go. Got nobody in the alley. Should be out the gate. All right? It's just old school zone read. Okay? If he surfs or he sits and he feathers, hand the ball off. QB still needs to carry out the fake 3-4 hard steps. And it's not just run, like running like this. Clasp your hands like you got the ball and run and hold the guy. It might screw this guy up, it might screw the safety up. Now all of a sudden it goes from a 3-yard gain to a 20-yard gain. Everything matters, okay? Even in this front, they're gonna have somebody here. He's gotta get here. Do we block corners? If this guy is the force player and they're running cover 2 or something and he's up in your face, you gotta block him. But if you push his inside shoulder and he bails, your eyes instantly need to go there. If this guy bails, go get that freaking safety. Because this kid trains all week long on running this alley and making a tackle. Running this alley and making a tackle. This kid doesn't want to make a tackle. Push the corner. If he bails, go get the safety. Okay, now we can block him. Does that make sense? Okay. Wide zone is the exact same thing. Difference is the back's landmark changes. Instead of the inside leg of the play side guard, he's running at the butt crack of the tight end. Or the butt crack of the ghost tight end if you don't have a tight end in. I'll put one in. Okay? This is important. And our backs do a fairly good job of it. Boston, I'm going to kick in the butt if he doesn't get it this year. He has to do this track. It can't be this. It can't be this. Okay, the back's job is to deliver the backs to the line. The line's job is to define the read for the back. That track is crucial. It can't be this. It can't be this. You are running downhill at the butt crack of that tight end as hard as you can go. Okay? The next thing, and this is hard, and this is what I was talking about Boston, he cannot worry about the mesh. If he's doing this, looking at the quarterback, waiting to get the ball, he's missing the read. And by the time he looks at the read, it's too late. His eyes have to be on the read. Have to. Just screws the whole play up if you don't. Okay? And we'll get into it. But this play right here is almost, it's almost science. He's going to take a scissor step or a pivot step. Some backs can do it really well. Some backs like to do this crap. It's honestly as simple as this. Scissor or pivot. Boom, you take that track and you go. Okay, so his first step here, second step, third step, he has the ball, and by the third step, he knows what his read is. He's either going outside it or he's going to cut it down. And by his fifth step, one cut. Okay, going back to the old Alex Gibbs, Mike Shanahan world. Double cuts get you killed. You put your outside foot in the ground and you cram it. You can overcoach backs. Let them be athletes. Let them go. If they get you 4 yards, even if you miss the read, get back in the huddle and go. Okay? It's okay. Where you get in trouble is if they get back here and try and dance. You freaking cram it. You cram it, get us back to the line of scrimmage. Okay? We had very few negative runs. We averaged less than one TFL in our run game last year, per game. Because our backs refused to get tackled for a loss. They would at least get us back to the line of scrimmage. It's no different than an incompletion. It's just fine. You're okay. Okay? And when you get it, if you can get that, all of a sudden that turns into 4, then it gets to 6, then it gets to 14, now you're at the gate running. Okay? So our rules are the exact same. The only difference, back's landmark is wider. He's going to the butt crack of the tight end. QB now holds this guy. He hands the ball off and he must boot. As soon as he hands the ball off, he should snap his head and find this guy. If this guy's running heels, trying to make the play, he needs to give you a signal, and you come out and you're on boot. Because now they got nobody in the alley. Okay? If this guy sits, which most teams do, that's great. Your QB's blocking him without getting hit, right? Let him sit back there, not do anything. Okay? So our rules, let's do a bear front. Our rules do not change. Only difference is our back's landmark changes and our aiming points change. Instead of play side number, we're now going to the play side peck. It ain't that much difference. Again, receivers can go 10 to 12, whatever is comfortable. I'm talking about 6-inch difference. It makes all the difference in the world. So that's why all line's different. That's why it's highly skillful. Okay, tight end, is he covered?
Yes.
Yes. Play side number. Run. If that guy's outside you, take your step, your wedge step, we call it, set your angle on your hips and your shoulders, and run as hard as you can through that play side number. If this guy does this, what should my back do? Bounce it. If this guy plays where he should, we're probably going to cut it, right? That's why this is probably my favorite play in football. You're using the defense's rules against them, right? What is every defensive end taught from day one? Don't give up, contain. Don't give up, contain. So if you threaten his gap and you take a hard wedge step and you attack his outside arm, this kid has been coached from day one, oh shit, I can't get caught outside. He's going to run as hard as he can that way. Great. Great. Because what are we trying to do on wide zone? Stretch the front side, cut the back side. What we're trying to do is get them to misalign their fits. He has this gap, he has this gap, strong safety probably has this gap. You know what I'm saying? Every defense, they're all gap sound, right? So what we want to do is instead of just having an 18-inch gap, because that's what our alignment is, we want to stretch that to now all of a sudden this big fat D tackle has to this spot to that spot because we've moved bodies. And even if he's in there, if we're still hanging on him, he's going to try and arm tackle your back, and if your back gets tackled, you got a bad back, right? Arm tackles can't happen. You got to run through that, okay? So you're using the defense's principles against them. So he's covered. He's going to the outside shoulder, outside shoulder. This guy should skate. Great. Running all the way to the sideline. I get as excited about that as when we get vertical knockoff. I want vertical movement. Vertical is the best, okay? Tackle, is he covered? No, so he should be comboing with this guy to whatever the threat is. Again, the Mike +1. Can be a strong safety, can be a Sam, whatever it is. So he's taking his wedge step to set his hips and his shoulders. This guy goes out, he stays on it for 3 steps, and then he climbs. Same aiming point on the level 2 defender. Okay, is this guy covered? Yes. That's the key block. He's got to get that play side number. Got to get that play side number. Center, is he covered? Yes. Play side number. Is he covered? I didn't draw that up right. Usually this is a 3 technique out here. Is he covered? No, because he's not on his nose or inside. He's going to the next guy, the exact same landmark as the center. He's going to run to that play side number, and these two have to get there. It's tough. It's tough. So, what we do, I don't know if you can do it Little League, if we get this and we know we're getting this, center's on his horse running, and we're cutting his ass. We're chopping him down. Saw their legs out from underneath him. Delaminated. Okay, we cut the shit out of people last year, too. This guy, what does he have? He's got to come down, so he's absolutely thinking cut. He's thinking cut. You're never going to get this kid here to where he needs to be without some kind of leakage if you can't cut him. So when you're thinking about who to plug in where, we kind of talked about put your good players in. If you're in the gun, any type of gun, this kid, snap is crucial. You can get away with him not being maybe as good a player, but the snaps are money. You got to have good snaps because a bad snap can kill the best play. You can kind of hide your center a little bit because they should have help on almost every combo. Okay, your guards, those are kind of your beat-up kids. Those are your maulers. They want to get to fist fight every play. They want to get after it because they're involved in every combo, whether it's with the tackle or the center. They want to punch somebody in the throat. Okay, your tackles kind of need to be your athletes for a couple reasons. Usually these guys are the best defensive players that you play against, right? They usually put their war daddies out there to end, kind of athletic kids that can run. So you got to be able to match up somewhat. But the other thing, just as important as on the backside, you got to be able to cut off that backside 3. So you got to be able to run a little bit. So this might be the kid that thinks he's a tight end or is a big beefy receiver that isn't getting any time for you. Put him in there. Because again, this block, even if he's at the point of attack, this block shouldn't be hard. You know what I'm saying? So we got an athletic kid here. Get this tight end out of here. You got an athletic kid in here, and the end's jetting up the field. All he's got to do is just stay with him, and the back's going to cut it. If he can reach him, and he can get his hat to the play side pec, or the play side armpit, that's defining the read for the back, and now the back says, oh shit, I'm just going to stay on my track and run. These tackles in the zone scheme don't need to be your best players, especially if you're not throwing the ball a lot. If you're throwing the ball out, you still need a good athlete to tackle. Okay? Questions on zone. Those are our rules. That's simple. Only thing that's different is the back's landmark or track and our aiming points. Rules are the exact same. Okay?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but all of that stuff you can easily chop up and that can easily be your drill. Like you don't have to have the whole line working together. You can easily just have have two dudes working two dudes.
Yeah.
And
Plot
then
it out, for sure.
backs in the quarterback, we literally drill that of getting that handoff, like it's the quarterback's job to get that handoff. We drill that. Individuals, get the handoff. That's just running at a cone, like.
I would start every drill as a base block. Okay, so what I mean by that is you're the guard and this guy's on you. Every drill ultimately comes down to somebody has to win one-on-one, right? So I would start with this first step. Okay, how do you get to your landmark? Your first step, I'm not a huge, it's got to be 6 inches. It's got to do what it's got to be to get you to your aiming point. That's all I care about. How are you going to get to your aiming point? Get to your aiming point. Your second step is what matters because that's where your power is. You get that sucker down, now you can run. Okay, so I'd align him like this on his body, and then I'd put him off his body and say, okay, what does that mean? Well, now I got to take a wider step. I might actually have to lose ground to gain width. But coach the hell out of that. Don't let them step under themselves, and don't let them just pivot over their toe. And they do. They'll get it in practice, but in games they always. So what I did is I went and got some PVC pipe, just 1-inch PVC pipe with a T junction, cut it up, and we put it out there, and they have to step over the pipe. It forces them to move that foot. So they can't just pick it up and put it right back down. They have to step over the pipe and go. Put a towel down, put a t-shirt down. Force them to move that foot. And again, we'll do that every day. Every day, every day. Power stuff is basically the opposite. If you're on the front side of power or gap scheme, instead of play side gap, now your responsibility is backside gap. Backside gap, build a combo to backer. Okay? We'll do in our gap scheme, we need a 6-man surface. So whether it's a tight end, fullback, something, you need somebody else. Okay? So we'll do 4-4 again. We'll kind of do the old school Larry Wall. Bountiful high, 4-4. Okay. Homer Braves, baby, forever brave. Okay. So our rules are now inverted. So in zone, we're working front side gap, build a combo to backer. Now we're working backside gap or inside gap, build a combo to backer. Okay, except for this guy, he's the kick. So whether he's a fullback back here, whether you motion him across as a tight end, he's the kick. So if he's on the line and he's in a line like this, like a tight end, he's just got that guy. You got to base him up, board drill it, one-on-one. You just have to stalemate's a win. You just can't get your ass knocked back. License to miss inside. Hat must be inside. If this guy spills you, you're in trouble. You got a dead play. If you just stalemate it, but your hat's inside, you got a good play. You got to get your hat inside. Okay? Actually, you know what? I just screwed that up because that's going to confuse you guys. I'm going to do this because this is more what we see.
There you go.
Okay. He's got this. So this guy is a 3 technique on my guard. Tackle's now working to his backside gap. Is there somebody in the gap? He's a 3 technique. He's in the gap. He's down. Is there anybody in his inside gap? No. So he builds a combo. We take it all the way back. Center chokes it back. This guy pulls for the inside backer. B gap and hinge. Okay? This is not a play off. You've got to step hard to the B gap and then hinge late for this guy. Because if they flip this and you got a 1 here and a 3 here, it's a long way for the center to go and they don't get there very often. This guy has B gap and hinge. Secure A to B to C gap. Inside out. Start the play. Got to get the play started. Okay? So we're comboing back. He's wrapping. Boom. We're up the gate. Okay? Now counter is the exact same play. But now we're going the other way. We'll draw it up the exact same way. We're going to do it with the fullback. And tackle, and backer, Sam out here, Will out here, corner here, 3 right there. Okay, somebody's got to get him. We can't get him. You guys get it? We only got 5, and we got 6 now, and they got 8. Can't block them all. So you got to find a way to account for this guy. Need an RPO, maybe motion this guy in, do something. You got to do something to get rid of this guy. You're running into an unblocked overhang. Okay. Inside gap, does he have a threat? Not really. There's really nobody to build a combo to because this guy's in the A gap, so he should be coming right off of his butt to that backer. If this guy slants to him, he'll take it. If this guy runs through his inside gap, he'll take it. Gap, build combo, backer. Okay? Gap, build combo, backer. There's no combo because he's here. If this guy stays in a 1, the guard should just wash it, right? Aiming for that play side number and just run your feet. Center's going to choke it back. slam hinge, B gap and hinge. Now, instead of the skill guy being the kick, we now become the kick, and he's wrapping for the first backer in the box. Okay? That's counter. It's the exact same play as power, except for this guy and this guy. Everybody else is the same. Cool? And again, this can be anybody. You can put this guy up here as a tight end. You can bring him in motion, set him. You can bring him in motion, not set him. I mean, whatever. Dress it up however the heck you want. Make it look sexy. That's where you get fun. That's where you get creative. Okay? All right. I want to get into some films so you guys can kind of actually.
While he set that up, guys, there's a lot of times when me and Dusty do argue or think about these things. With these gap schemes, once you get good at it, it doesn't matter what they put outside of what you block. If everybody's hitting the things that they're supposed to. I remember perfectly Weber had that extra overhang guy and brought a safety over, and literally Dusty's in my ear like, no, 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 and then all of a sudden it breaks because they got so good at their rules and creating that space right where we needed it.
So you'll leave those guys sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes.
The back to hit our
So,
If we're in the zone and it's like our 5th time running it and the guys are just killing it, I don't care what you bring up there.
I'll tell you right now, counter should be an A-gap play. Counter, you should be jamming that bitch right down the pipe. If you're having to bounce that, you're not getting movement up front. You're not doing a good enough job. Counter should be here, and it should hit right over the guard. Maybe B-gap, worst case. But it's a downhill, straight down the pipe, right down the hash. Power, your back should be going at the guard's outside leg. And Hoops and I have kind of talked about this. It's honestly, the play hits directly over the guard's butt. We start a little wide on purpose, and I'll show you why. We start a little wide because these guys run. And when you draw it up on a whiteboard, you're like, okay, you're going to pin him right here. You're going to stop his momentum. It doesn't always happen like that. In fact, more often than not, this guy's going to beat you to the spot, but as long as your tackle stays on him and use him out of the play, and you'll see it when you watch the Weaver tape, as long as he use him out of there, it pops just as clean, if not better. Because now you lock up on this guy and you him out of the play, and the back goes right there, and there's nobody but the freaking safety. Okay, so it should be a downhill play. So kind of what Dan was talking about, sometimes this overhang stuff, if the play's hitting where it should, and you're gashing them and creating the seams where you need to, they're not doing anything. Okay, so this one, I put this together just so you can kind of get what I'm talking about. Notice the angles are different. You know, when I was a kid and learning how to play football, these were always drawn up the same way, right? Like at the same angle. Again, your angle is going to change depending on how wide the guide is or where your landmark or your aiming point is. Your angle has to change because you can't Gumby and get gapped where it needs to be if you're going too far vertical. Does that make sense? Yep. So your angle is going to change depending on the defender's alignment. You're going through the cylinder of the man's body to that landmark. Here, stand up real quick. This is another thing that kids will have trouble with. I'll tell them this is your landmark, and so what they'll do is they'll try. Yeah. What they'll do is they'll try and get up here, and then they'll go like this. I don't want that because it's too soft. I want you to sprint through the cylinder of his body, go boom on this angle, and now you're just running. And if this guy's worth a piss, he should try and play with you. And if he doesn't, now if you get to your landmark, now you can turn vertical and drive you vertically. Does that make sense? So you're running through that place, and run through the cylinder of his body to your landmark. Don't try and hook it. That's a big coaching thing. A lot of the kids are trying to hook it, and they'll be soft. All things being equal, if I'm going this way, and he's going this way, equal size and strength, what's going to happen when we make contact?
If you're hooking?
Yeah, if I'm even going flat.
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yep. So you don't do any hook blocks.
I hate them.
You'd rather engage going through and to get to that side.
Because as soon as you hook, I'm fine getting vertical. If you can get to your landmark, your aiming point, and you've got it captured, get vertical and knock him off the ball. But as soon as you do this, you put your ass in the hole.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to block the guy with your hands.
Now all he's got to do is stand.
He's going to go through your arms and hit the back right here.
Yeah.
So I hate turning my butt in the hole. I hate it.
And you make it easy for the linebacker.
Yes, now you can't
Yeah,
get
now he can come right.
Yeah. So your second step has to get down. So again, same thing. If he's going this way, now I'm doing this and attacking through the cylinder of his body to that point. Now what's going to happen if I have this angle and he has this angle? should be more like this, right?
Yeah,
And that's
flatten
fine. Take him and run him all the way to the numbers. Run him to the hash, run him off the sideline. Throw him out the club. I celebrate that as much as I do decleaters or pancakes. That's awesome. I love it when they do that. Run them. Just run your feet, okay? Don't let your second step cross your midline. Again, that happens when they're trying to hook guys. They do this, okay? It's got to be here, here, go. I don't coach first step. I coach the Nikes out of the second step. Get that second step down and run, okay? Drive the top of your shoulder pad through his throat, uppercut to his sternum. Your second step goes to his crotch, and you run. You want to step into him with your second step. Boom, boom, and run.
So your
Now it's
hand's
just a 4-yard
coming
dash.
down the same as your second step.
Yes.
So that's the.
Yep. Top of your shoulder pad and hand. Alex Gibbs and those guys with the Broncos, they literally used to ball up their fist and uppercut. I don't believe in that, but if you can get them up,
Kind of like it.
right? Like we talked about, Z's in the knees and the hips, right? Defensive line's the same way. So if you can get them up
Yeah,
and
you
get them
can.
extended,
Lift.
get that lift out of them, and get your hips under theirs, take them wherever they want to go. This is important. Drag your backside shoulder through his neck, through his throat. When you teach this, a lot of kids will start reaching. They'll start reaching like crazy. Reaching's death. You don't make contact with your hands, you make contact with your face. All your hands are doing is guiding you. As soon as you start reaching, you start holding. As soon as you start reaching, your feet stop, they beat you over the top. Gotta run. Run, it's not a shuffle. 40-yard dash. Okay. Pass pro, we talked about spot. Okay, the spot, 80% of pass pros just get into your spot. So the way I define the spot, where the QB's drop is, has to be consistent, right, Jeff? Has to be consistent, because we can't see him. Everybody else in the stadium sees where the quarterback is, except for the guys protecting him. So we just have to know where he is. He has to be where he's supposed to be. The outside foot of the defender to the quarterback's drop. That's his line. The spot is where you can intersect that. That's all it is. Get to that spot. Force him to bubble. If you can get to that spot and force him to do this, you're probably going to win the rep. If you can get to that stop and force him to restart, you're definitely going to win the rep. What I mean by that is that's when your hands do come into play. Strike him, force him to restart, or force him to redirect. Okay? But if you can get 2 bubbles, or a bubble and a restart, you're going to win. So you have to get to your spot. And your spot changes on your quarterback's depth and all that. Quarterback has to be tied into what we're doing. Routes have to be tied into what we're doing. If we're trying to get a 25-yard route on a 3-step drop, it ain't going to happen. We're not fast enough. We're not going to get to that spot. So we got to figure out how to time it out. Okay? So get to your spot. 80% in pass protection is getting to your spot. Then it's just desire, in my opinion. Then it's just moving your feet, playing basketball with them. I'll make the kids, we don't even block with our hands for the first week. All it is getting your spot and then mirror. Shuffle, mirror, shuffle, mirror. Run them. Okay?
And this is also big where that R4 stuff comes in for the Q. He can't sit back there and pack because he's telling his guys to beat him to a spot, bend him once, get that bubble, get that restart. If the Q's still sitting back there like this, it's no good. So that's why they all have to be on the same page of rhythm, read, go, because the tackle is bang, bang, and running not as a deal.
Man, I'm sweating up here. I'm working hard. Fatty.
It is like 1,000,000 degrees.
It feels 10 degrees